Nintendo has somehow sucked all the life out of the fans. Nintendo showed off the most anticipated console reveal of all time by showing off cheap gimmicks, overpriced games, and a direct attack on physical media. I never would have seen the day where Nintendo will go the route of Microsoft. The level of arrogance and disregard for the times isn't new for Nintendo, but this is a whole new level. I think it's best that we start with some good news first before the bad. There's not much of it anyway, but it should be known that not everything shown was horrible. Nintendo Switch 2 will have a 1080p screen with a high refresh rate up to 120 FPS, which is pretty nice. The dock with this new fan can push the Switch 2 up to 4K at 60 frames per second, and I think as far as Nintendo's first party, that's where we'll see that being hit the most. The mysterious C button that everyone has been talking about has been revealed to be the long-awaited chat feature that fans have been begging for since Splatoon on the Wii U. Games like Breath of the Wild and Prime 4 are getting Switch 2 versions, with better resolution, frame rates, and some games even have extra content. A plethora of third-party games was shown. Even Madden came by, and I was surprised seeing as what happened with them on the Wii U. I'm most excited for the closest thing to a Bloodborne sequel that we'll ever get, a game called the Dusk Blood. Looks like a vampire version of Bloodborne, looks interesting. Bravely Default Collection is coming out. That's great because I only played the second game, and that game was phenomenal. And Demon X Machina 2. I always wanted to buy Demon X Machina, but now I might wait and just get the sequel. Might is to be emphasized here, and you'll see why. The biggest reveal might have been Donkey Kong Bonanza. This game looks just... If you had to just define something as fun, this game, right in the dictionary, you see the word fun, you're going to see Donkey Kong Bonanza. This game just looks so much fun. Donkey Kong was great in his classic outfit. He got overalls on, looks like Wreck-It Ralph. It's so cool. And the destruction almost reminds me, not exactly the same, but it reminds me of the destruction that you saw in Mario Odyssey. Like there were certain like levels where you can like break stuff up, crumble stuff up, and a little bit of destruction that was in Tears of the Kingdom with the caves. This game just looks awesome. Can't wait to play it. Not a launch title, but it's coming out like basically a month after launch. So you might as well say it's launch window. Looks great. Unfortunately, that's where everything good stops. At least everything that's of importance is good. All the small little minor stuff is just third-party support. And the sad thing is everything that I mentioned that was good has its own issues. So it's not even entirely a good thing. We got to first start with the C button because that's where I was completely taken aback. Nintendo fans have been waiting for voice chat for forever, and we hated the fact that Nintendo told us to basically use our phone for it. And now we have it. But voice chat costs money now. Now, on the surface, that doesn't seem like a big deal. It requires Nintendo Switch Online, and, voice chat costs money, right? So this is normal. Yeah, you think so until you remember what year it is. See, no one else charges for voice chat anymore, but Nintendo is now. You can voice chat, you can share your screen, and even hook up a camera that looks like a cheap Logitech camera and look at your friends. But do you see this footage? Do you see how bad this looks? My mouth was open watching this. This looks horrible. Nintendo is a billion-dollar company, and they thought this dial-up level of service was worth not only showing off in this state, but now they're going to charge you money for this. This is something that would only be acceptable in the AOL and Bell South era. What is this? This looks like hot garbage. The Switch 2 will have 4 types of games, and one of which is dangerous to gamers as consumers and to the market as a whole. You have your regular Switch 1 games, Switch 2 games, and Switch 2 enhanced games. The first two are straightforward, while the enhanced games are basically similar to like PS5 games or PS5 versions of PS4 games. Better graphics, FPS, and some of them have extra game modes. but Nintendo is charging. Now, to be fair, a lot of devs do charge you $10 for an upgrade. Sony does it. Days Gone is coming out in a few days. I'm going to get that game for $10 extra because I already own the game. So that isn't anything new. But the thing that's weird is that it seems like almost every game that Nintendo's releasing will cost extra money. And not all of them have extra content. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom seems to be just graphical upgrades. We don't know how much they're charging. If it's $10, fair enough. But you're going to see why that may not be the case. The most dangerous thing I've seen to game preservation in a long time. Nintendo is introducing game cart keys. So if you go to your local game store or GameStop or wherever you shop for video games, you can find a box that basically just has a code inside and it's just a digital game voucher. That's all it is. The game key is the same thing, except for you need this basically fake cartridge that sits inside your system to use your digital game. Now, this already just sounds stupid on paper, but I got my brain working and said, okay, Nintendo isn't, well, they're crazy, but they're not that crazy. Why would they be doing this? So this is what I came up with. It's just an assumption. I don't know. This is just a theory. Let me stop. My assumption is that this is a solution to the issue that we faced with the original Switch. Remember how certain games on Switch required a larger file size Switch cart, and most developers didn't want to pay for that because then the game would have to cost more money? I'm guessing this is a solution to that. So Switch 2 runs games at 4K. 4K games by default are big in file size. If a game can't fit on the cartridge, they'll offer you this instead. But the reason why this is dumb is because you might as well just buy the game digitally. You're saving a trip to the store. You're saving gas. You're saving delivery. If you ordered it, you could just buy it. That doesn't actually solve the problem. In fact, it creates a problem. You know what it creates? It's going to make all the developers become lazy, because this is what's going to happen. I'm telling you, this is going to happen. They're going to say, instead of even seeing if we can copy our game on a cart, we're just going to release these versions. And then most of the physical media for the Switch 2, I bet you when it comes to third party and maybe even Nintendo, will be these fake game cartridges. That's what it's going to end up being. Now, again, there's still regular Switch 2 game cartridges with the game on the cart. So all hope isn't lost, but a lot of the times, third-party developers, they're probably just going to go that route. Making the Switch 2, if you care about physical media and game preservation, a horrible device. This only is going to embolden developers to not release real physical media. It kills preservation, and it's just shocking that Nintendo, out of all, would do something like this. This is something Microsoft would do. Microsoft does do this. This is why one of the reasons why I haven't bought an Xbox Series X yet, because while I want the more powerful console, but then the disc, a lot of the games are not even on the disc. A lot of people assume all systems work like this, but this is not how it works. Most systems, even PS5, you could buy a disc day one, no patching, no internet, put it in your system and it works. That's it. That's how stuff has been working. Nintendo is now pulling an Xbox, and I can't believe it's them. You would have thought it'd be Sony, but it's Nintendo. This is crazy. And you might be wondering, maybe these fake game cartridges will make the games be cheaper, but I don't think so, and I'm gonna tell you why. Nintendo is selling Mario Kart for $90. That's right, $90 damn dollars. So the system costs $450. The games can cost between $80 to $90. Now, I'm sure $60 and $50 games will still exist, but knowing Nintendo, they're probably going to charge you the highest they can, which is going to be the $80 to $90. Has Nintendo lost their minds? I'm sure we all already understand they have, but I just got to ask. Let me know in the comment section. Now, people are trying to blame the terrorists. Okay, I'm not into politics. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm going to say this. I don't believe it has anything to do with tariffs because no one else is affected by tariffs, but Nintendo is. Doesn't make sense. 2, Nintendo has done stuff like this before. When Nintendo comes off of a high of selling a system and doing extremely well, they get extremely arrogant, start smelling their own farts, and all they smell is donuts and roses and treats and things that smell good. They don't smell the actual boo-boo coming out their mouth. They just smell the good stuff. They're smelling their own stink and they think it smells good. And they're pissing people off because, like I said, fans are upset. When the diehard Nintendo fans that fought alongside them for the Wii U, and I was there during that time, and I liked the Wii U, but even I was talking against it, and I was getting killed for it. When those people who were denying the Wii U's failure, denying it, even though it was happening in front of everyone's face, are now saying Nintendo's tripping, it's safe to say that Nintendo has lost all sense of reality. We really should have saw all this coming. Nintendo charged $70 for a Zelda DLC. A Zelda DLC. And by the way, I hope you're ready to buy the same game again, running at a stable frame rate like it should have always been running at. Because guess what? They're selling you Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom for the umpteenth time. And now it's at 60 frames per second. I don't remember if it's 4K. I'll confirm it in the video if it is. But guess what? Who really cares? People who've been emulating on PC have been doing that already. You think those people about to pay? I'm about to figure out, because I own both the games, how I can play those games. Well, I'm not even going to do, I don't even like those games. But if I did, I would do that. Because why in the world would I pay? Potentially, we don't know what those games are going to cost. But if Breath of the Wild still runs about $60 when it's not on sale, Tears of the Kingdom is $70 when it's not on sale, what the heck do you think it's going to cost for the updates? Bare minimum $10. So you're paying $80 for Tears and $70 for Breath of the Wild. Ain't that special? Nintendo didn't even address the biggest concern for Switch 2. We all knew Nintendo was going to drop good games. We all could assume that the Switch 2 was going to have better hardware. Of course, it's the sequel to the Switch. That's normal. Didn't address any solutions they made to the Joy-Con 2s when it comes to stick drift. People would buy Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, and within a month or less, their Joy-Con sticks would drift. Mine did that, and I've refused to buy extra sticks because it's one thing if even Microsoft got a handle on the red ring of death eventually, the Joy-Con still drift to this day. No indication, no Nintendo saying, hey, we're sorry, giving you the Iwata bow, rest in peace to Iwata, none of that. And we found a solution. You won't have drift no more. We've found the solution. Nothing, nada, a whole generation. And even this one didn't even address it. So let's assume that it hasn't changed. That means you're going to spend $450 at launch. You're going to probably buy a game unless you get the bundle for $500 with Mario Kart. So you already got a game, but let's say you don't want that game. So you buy a game plus $450 plus $80. Then within a month, you probably got to buy some new Joy-Cons because Joy-Cons drifting. So now you got to spend another $80. Let me calm down. Let me calm down. Look, this couldn't have been more of a perfect layup. The Nintendo Switch 2 is dropping June 5th, a day before my birthday. I know that doesn't matter to you guys, but to me, when I saw that day, I said, oh, this is going to be lit. That's crazy. You couldn't have made it any better. You couldn't have set it up any better. All Nintendo had to do was drop a Switch 2 upgrade at a reasonable price. $450 might seem fine because the Switch 2 does do 4K. But the problem with that is that the games themselves don't look much better than regular Switch games. I didn't see not one game running on Switch 2 that the Switch 1 couldn't run reasonably well. And the one game that it did run that I don't think the Switch 1 could run at all was Elden Ring, but in the trailer, it's barely holding on to 30 FPS. I already own Elden Ring, not my cup of tea, but I can play it on my PS5 at 4K, 60 frames per second, at least close to it. So the Switch 2 is running it worse. And how much are they going to charge me for that? Does it even come with the new DLC that released not too long ago? I don't know. Probably not. Well, it might, but who knowing Nintendo, who knows? As a content creator, covering the Switch 2 is worth the price alone because I'm going to make my money back on it, God willing. But most people don't buy games or game systems to invest into a business like I'm doing. So for most people that just want to come home and play a nice video game while not feeling like they just been violated by the company that sold them the thing, I don't know if I can recommend this to you guys. And the sad thing is that Nintendo rarely drops their prices, so it's not even like I say wait for a price drop unless it flops. If it flops, then maybe so. Anytime Nintendo gets arrogant, they do things like this and they fail. I really want them to fail like they did with Wii U. And hopefully, unlike Wii U, they can turn the ship around because I think they got something good here, but they need to lower those prices or at the bare minimum, show us why we're paying $80 a game. Show us why we're paying that much money. Because I didn't see it, and neither did the diehard fans. So if I didn't see it, the diehard fans didn't see it. Outside of the casual consumer that just buys the new thing because it's new, if you didn't get us, you probably didn't get them.